What's up, guys? This is Dalton Brown,
This is John Kendricks.
and we are Proud Ole History, coming to you with another episode this week after a great weekend, a happy Halloween weekend, and a Rebel victory weekend.
You bring up an interesting point there, Dalton. Before we actually get started talking about football, I would like to ask, what did you dress up for Halloween this week?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So, it's kind of hard to describe, but I'll do my best. I have one of them kind of gimmick costumes that you buy, and I'm sure everybody's seen them. That you put it on, and it appears that you're on someone's shoulders. Well, I was on Scream's shoulders for the weekend, so that was pretty funny. I don't like to go with anything on my face or anything too lasting because I don't want to mess myself up throughout the night. So I try whatever I dress up for a costume. I try to be simple and funny, and I think I got a couple of laughs. What about you?
I'm not going to lie, I was Alex Moran. I do the same thing every year. I put on a football jersey. This really called to me this year. Last year, I was actually O.J. Simpson. Not sure why I own that jersey, but it was funny for Halloween. I had a leather glove and all that. Didn't fit, though. This year, just straight up Alex Moran. I like your costume. When you said gimmicky, I thought you were going to be like a twee or something, to be honest. I feel like I saw that one around a good little bit. I like the sitting on Scream's shoulders. That's definitely a good play.
Yeah,
The Rebels, though, what did they dress up as? I mean, they were some land
Winners.
sharks. They could do no wrong this weekend. We dressed up like we had a defense.
Hey, the defense showed up this weekend. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Look, I mean, and honestly, you look at Lenora Sellers, and I mean, it just goes to say how talented he really is. He was bound to get one of them deep balls eventually, but I was worried that we wasn't gonna be able to stop it all game. We did a really good job. I think he had that one in the third quarter or maybe second quarter that he connected with.
Oh yeah, he had. It was. I think it was a late second quarter because I remember that guy Nick Harbor. I think everybody knows who that is, but I remember seeing him at track meets last year. Kid's quick. I wasn't sure what we were doing on the defensive scheme because it looked like we were pressing him a little bit. Personally, I'm giving the guy that runs a 10-300 at least 15 yards off the line. I don't think he's running any quick slants. He is like 6'6", maybe 6'7". But honestly, we held them pretty well. Lenora Sellers did a good job. But that guy, Nick Harbor, he's getting open often, but the defense was just bringing so much pressure on Lenora Sellers, and he did not look like he was able to handle that well. They had him moving around a lot. He couldn't really get his feet set and throw that deep ball out there. I think the defensive line really won us the game, which is crazy because they have been the ones that seem to be the weakest on our defensive side. I mean, it was one side of the line. It was either the O-line or the D-line each game that wasn't playing that well, and I thought they both did a really good job this week. But that D-line, I would say that they really helped to force that late game interception. Just because the clock's already ticking, there's not much to do. You don't have timeouts anyway, and then to add on to all that pressure, you got a 260-pound D lineman in your face ready to absolutely murder you on Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
There was a lot to think about out there. But besides that D line, so I would say D line, big part of that win. I mean, South Carolina looked like strong contenders for most of the game, but at some point they just stopped being able to keep up with the Rebel defense. But what about that running back play?
Yeah. No, man, Kejuan Lacey, I mean, if you look at him just off the beginning of the game, I mean, he had so many explosive runs to really kind of settle the Rebels into that game because, it started off a little rough. I mean, Lane Kiffin, with the genius he is, he goes with that fake punt to kind of recover some momentum after we go, 3 and out.
What a play that was. I'm not gonna lie, I was not watching. I was talking to somebody in the stands because I was a little disappointed that we had just gone 3 and out on our first drive. I don't think that you're gonna see many fake punts on your own side of the field first drive from anyone else in the country, much less the SEC. I think that really is one of the things that sets Kiffin apart is he's willing to do things that other coaches are simply not willing to try.
That and I mean, like you was talking about earlier, I think we can stay focused on the Kejuan. We start on offense and we can talk more about the defensive side again. But yeah, offensively, Trinidad came out and I wouldn't say he looked weak by any measure. I mean, I don't know. It's just he has these inconsistencies that I think it's almost like he's overthrowing some of his passes, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to be fine tuned hopefully by come the playoffs. But when you're having guys get open against a pretty respectable defense in South Carolina and you don't hit them, you're not going to get only so many chances, and so it really helps to have a guy like Kejuan Lacey and then paired with a offensive genius like Lane Kiffin. That I mean, if you look at the first couple possessions that Ole Miss had, especially that big breakout run, I mean, he would have took that for a touchdown if he was not so gassed.
Yeah.
But he had, had 8 touches within the first 10 minutes of the game.
Well,
And I
Kejuan
mean,
Lacey had 24 carries for 167 yards. That's unreal. He had
Exactly.
more rushing yards than Trinidad Chambliss had throwing yards.
no, the Ole Miss offense could have been called Kejuan Lacey, and that would have been a fair take. I mean, he wasn't the only offense. Like I said, Trinidad showed up. I was very impressed with Wright at the tight end. I mean, if you look at Wright over the game, he played at fullback, he played at tight end, he played at wideout. He took a couple big blocks that was really important for Trinidad to kind of escape that pocket. And I mean, I think again he needs to get a lot of credit too, because I mean there are some very what it says is that Ole Miss is offense can be selfless. You know what I mean? It really is a dynamic when you have a team that is just willing to win, not willing to hey, I have to get my catches or my attempts, but no, they're a very adamant team to find what works and to do what works, no matter what it is. I think if fake field goals would have worked against South Carolina all game, Lane would have ran that every time. You know what I mean? It shows that Ole Miss is not here to make it just pretty every time like we wish it would be. We're here to win ball games, and that's what is very important coming into the playoff stretch. And I was impressed. I mean, again, Trinidad, I agree, could be better passing the ball, but for him coming to where he is now and in his condition and in all the things that have kind of led up to this, I mean, I'm impressed with it, and especially with the adaptability of the Ole Miss offense. I mean, I think, they're a very strong team, and I'm expecting, playoffs for sure.
I agree. And so when you were talking about Trinidad, I actually completely agree. But I see some of these shorter throws, some of these quick slants, these out routes. I swear Trinidad has so much confidence in where he can put the ball that he forgets what is catchable for these receivers. Because I saw so many times last night, you got a guy coming off a slant in the red zone. He's covered by 3 guys, but Trinidad can put the ball in his hands. But is he going to be able to make that catch with 3 dudes breathing down his neck, contact immediately? I saw him hit a receiver, maybe a little bit high, maybe a little bit low in the red zone. He's just absolutely gassing that ball in there. And I think that he needs to take a little bit more time to think about, can my receiver actually get this ball, not just can I get them the ball. He obviously has a lot of faith in his receiving core, in his own arm. But I feel like very often he'll get caught up in I can make the throw and not can I make the play. And you saw that a lot early in the game. I feel like you see that often early game for Trinidad. He'll get out there and he's just forcing the ball downfield instead of making sure it's a good throw. Because, we really struggled to throw the ball. I mean, the whole game, honestly, we struggled to throw the ball. But South Carolina has a good defense. They might be a bottom-tier SEC team based on ranking. But South Carolina has an incredible defense, and they always have. They just haven't been able to complete these long games. But Trinidad Chambliss, I think that his ability to move the ball isn't influenced, but it is affected on a core level by Kejuan Lacey's ability to run that ball. Because it's not all about Trinidad Chambliss completing passes. I think a lot of times they're going for deep shots, and it might be to help Kejuan Lacey open up that running game a little bit. You have to respect those throws because they might not be completing them, but they're trying to go deep. So if you let off in the secondary, you bring them in to try to stop Kejuan, well, there's a pretty decent chance that Trinidad Chambliss airs that ball out 30 yards downfield. Maybe a catch, maybe not. But I really feel like what you said, how it's kind of a selfless game. It's not all about one person. I think it's the whole offense, And whether Trinidad throws for 300 or 150, we're still winning games. And Q1 Lacey is consistently getting over 100 rushing yards per game. I mean, 167 is a crazy number against an SEC defense. A good SEC defense at that. Those D linemen were enormous. Just watching them come out onto that field. But what do you think about our red zone offense? Because from what we've been talking about, I feel like we're talking about the whole game. I feel like our red zone offense was a little bit of a dark spot in our play last weekend. I honestly felt like we were more likely to score from the 30 than from the 5.
Yeah, that first field goal that we had to take, off the 7 or 6, that was hard to watch. But, I mean, you have to take points there, and I agree. I think that kind of goes just with, the confidence that's with these guys. I mean, and it's obviously a little bit more difficult to score in that confined spot, the safety's playing up and that kind of deal. So, I mean, when you are putting – the team in a position where, hey, the passing hasn't been there and we kind of already expecting the run, and Lane, he can only run the RPO so much, and, that Trinidad, I think just the confidence that is going to build, hopefully, with the Citadel game and with the schedule upcoming, that's going to be able to polish that offense, because I think that's what you have right there. That's like, in my analogy, when you go down the court in basketball and the defending team, they stop the play that you called, and the shot clock's coming down, so you got to do something. You have to give it to somebody, and there's not really an excuse just not to score either. So you got to find a way, and you have to have the confidence still that when your first option doesn't work, that you can still work it. And I think Trinidad gets in his head a little bit because like you mentioned, he had some good opportunities, and I can imagine that's really frustrating for him to miss some passes. And you could kind of tell that his decision-making was I wouldn't say it was indecisive, but, there was a few times where I think he rolled out of the pocket and, had a lot of space, something that we're normally used to Trinidad taking, and he would stay back and almost trying to prove himself that he could throw the ball, you know what I mean? And saying, I'm going to pass the ball no matter what on this play. And I think he's just in his head a little bit about it, but I believe with, these upcoming games, you're going to get hopefully some better success and some more experience with success, and hopefully get some confidence raised from that. So the next time you go against State at Starkville or Florida or one of these bigger defenses coming up soon, you're just more composed because you belong. I mean, hey, Ole Miss has got some very good wins this season, and I think that all the gentlemen on that team know that they are meant to be where they are. They just have to continue to do what they do, show up and execute. And obviously it's a lot easier said than done. And, the SEC this year seems to be like a Wild West, and anybody can lose at any time, and that's true. So, I mean, you just have to be ready and try to be as prepared as you can. I mean, even for Citadel coming up this week, I mean, I get it. Everybody, wants to joke, and by no means am I ever expecting a upset, but I mean, you still have to prepare for them. You have to be ready. You have to go through all the same analysis that you do. I mean, we saw that whenever we played Washington State, right?
Yeah,
and
that was almost a tearjerker at the very end.
State, I mean, goodness, that could have been a dream crusher right there. But you just have to continue to execute and remind yourself you belong. I mean, these guys have worked their butts off all summer. You can tell how hard the coaching staff has worked. You can tell how hard everybody's worked just by the atmosphere, the culture change. I mean, you just have to remind yourself of all those things and push yourself to, job's not done. You can't be satisfied right now being 8-1.
I
mean?
agree.
That's that. I mean, it's great. I feel amazing as an Ole Miss fan saying, yeah, we're looking good walking into the final few weeks of the season. But you can't just sit here and say, okay, well, I'm happy now.
Well, you know what the best thing about being 8-1 is, right? You can be 9-1.
Amen.
It's the natural progression of things. I mean, why stop now? But I actually really feel what you're saying about Trinidad and the way he was playing. I feel like Trinidad definitely is trying to do something, and I don't want to say out of his range because Trinidad is a great quarterback, but I think Trinidad is his greatest when he's not worried about how he's moving the ball, just that he's moving the ball. When he first took over the reins at Ole Miss, people were not, because you come off of Austin Simmons' pro-style passing quarterback, he can run the ball, he's decently quick, but in reality, he's not running that ball on a 2nd and 10. And if he does, he's probably not getting that first down. Trinidad Chambliss can come into the game and run for 25 yards if you don't have somebody spying on him. If you let your safeties fall back and you're playing man and all you got is maybe one linebacker over the middle, Trinidad's going to take that ball 20, 30 yards on you because he's genuinely fast. He's a good quarterback. I think when you look at the quarterbacks who played like Trinidad, you have the Johnny Manziels, the Tim Tebows, the Cam Newtons, like those guys who it wasn't about throwing the ball. It was about getting first downs and getting in the end zone. He's not the most physical runner out there, but he's quick, he's very agile, and he's very hard to pin down. You saw that a couple times against South Carolina, but it was really more when he was evading in the pocket. He had some really good moves. I for sure thought someone was gonna get a part of his shoulder pad, jersey, bring him down, but he's quick. And we say this like he had a bad rushing game. He still ran for 60 yards. But we've definitely seen more out of Trinidad in that area. Not yardage-wise, but definitely moment-wise. Because like you said, there were moments when, Trinidad's got open field. He's going to go for it. Usually, if there's a guy in front of him, he can make one miss. He might be able to get around somebody, get some extra yards. But it really looked like he wanted to throw that ball. And maybe in the game plan, they said, hey, we're going to have you throwing the ball more this week. We think they're going to have some linebackers sitting over top on you, just waiting on you. But I really feel like that's where Trinidad thrives, is seeing an opportunity to either run that ball, check it down, throw it deep, whatever. I think his best game is when he's just simply taking advantage of what he can see and not being like, I need to throw this ball. It's in the game plan. Because it's way harder to plan for somebody who, you gave me a hole right here. Well, why not take it? You know what I mean? Like, I got 5 free yards. Well, if I throw this, everybody's pretty locked up. I mean, I might complete this for 10. I can get 7 yards right here. Just running it. I like that style of play.
The ideal, and I think not to really tie it to the player, but more to the game. I mean, you can tie it to the player. He's an excellent player, but I would rather say to the game. If you look at like Will Howard in the national championship last year, I mean, that might be the best decision-making of quarterback play at that high of a competition level that we've ever seen. I mean, in college football at least, because he had an insane completion rate. He scrambled for, 30 or 40 yards, which was in pretty useful moments. And that's kind of where I see, like, the same type of usefulness in Trinidad, right? Is that he has this ability to be versatile and, really just needs to lean on his strengths and not try to be something he isn't, And I get it, like, especially when you have Lane Kiffin and you have Caden Lee and, Jackson Dart. There's a lot of things that, you can imagine coming into the Ole Miss offense and being like, okay, yeah, this is going to be me. But, dude, I don't think at any time should he try to change his game of play and be more, passing-esque and to say, I should pass more because Dart did or anything like that. I think, dude, there were several moments where I wish he would have took off and just showed South Carolina, man, like, you got another threat, because I just didn't think he used his wheels enough. He had that running touchdown, but that was more of like a design, read option kind of running play. I like when he, I don't think there's anything more defeating to a good defense than when you run a really good scheme, you box all the options up, all the receivers are covered, and then the quarterback escapes the D line and runs for 10 or 15. I mean, that is exhausting as a secondary and as a defensive coordinator. If you can mess up those type of game plans, I mean, that's what's going to be able to put us in a position to beat, these big teams coming in the playoffs is, everybody, once we get in the playoffs, everybody is, back at the same level field. Yeah. And, we're all good teams here. We're all meant to be here. But now it's time to, show who's just a little bit better. And that's what Ole Miss, I think, needs to be getting good at right now, is finding ways to be just a little bit better than the other team and holding that, not letting them fight back. I think there's no better team in the country than what I just talked about than Georgia right now. I mean, it is evident after Ole Miss, after
who they just play. Their
game this week. You can see if you have Florida,
Florida.
if you have Georgia within one possession, I mean, I don't ever feel safe if Georgia's really within 2 possessions, especially going in the fourth quarter. And if it's anywhere near Georgia, you know that they are not going to they're not going to lose that game.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. And I really think with Trinidad, he can open up his own options with his legs. Because I talked about Lacey earlier. I think Lacey does a lot for the passing game, but I feel like it's a lot easier to read what Lacey's going to do. Generally speaking, if Lacey's back there, we're probably going to run the ball. That's like 70% of our offense is Lacey left or Lacey right. I love it.
Yeah.
But when we're not running it with Lacey, if Trinidad gets in that game, and he doesn't even have to break these big yardage running plays off, I feel like when he comes into that game and he starts using his legs, he gets a little bit in the defense's head. It's not even a scheme thing for the head coach. It makes those players in the midfield, it makes them second guess just a little bit. A little bit of hesitation lets a receiver get one step on a DB. Is Trinidad going to run that ball? Do I need to be up front? It never lets them really know what's going on, and I feel like that is why Trinidad has had these 350-yard passing games. Purely because, whenever he gets that ball, he can't be certain of what he's going to do, which is what made him so dangerous against like the LSUs, and he even played very well against Georgia, despite the loss. I really thought that was one of our better games offensively. But I kind of want to move on to another topic. What do you think about Lane Kiffin and his potential decision on whether he wants to stay with the Rebels or not? I've heard a lot of talk about it, but I don't know if I've heard that many people agreeing with Lane will leave.
Yeah, I definitely have some input, but right before I give you that input, I did want to say one more thing about the game this weekend that I don't know if I've heard anyone else talk about, but I just want to say Lenora Sellers had a very unique QB contain that I picked up on while I was at the game. It appeared that the outside linebacker, who normally was, I think, T.J. Daugherty, would come down and almost appear like in a blitz and really just show in a low cloud coverage or a low, kind of close to line, and he would just play, I guess, short slants and, any type of scramble. But, man, Daugherty did just a fantastic job this weekend containing Lenora Sellers. I don't think he's been really talked about by anybody I've heard or seen, but, man, if Lenore Sellers remembers anybody from that defense, it is number 6, because every time he came out of that pocket, there was T.J. Daugherty waiting on him. And I just thought that there was so many times where, Lenore's could have broke a third down into a first down, and he couldn't because of, really good play from T.J. Daugherty.
That honestly probably goes back to why our D-line played so good, because Daugherty being able to take a little bit of that pressure off of them. You don't have to worry about Lenore Sellers getting out and leaving. You just got to track him down where he's in the pocket. And there were a lot of plays where he would get outside, but he could never get to the line.
Well, I tell you what, if that didn't raise, I think that deservingly should raise T.J. Daugherty's draft stock, because, again, that's not an easy position to play. To have that responsibility, to kind of be the QB spy, but it really appeared like he was kind of still in coverage at some points, which is, I'm not, a defensive guru. I could be reading it wrong, but I was really impressed with him. And like we've already mentioned, the Ole Miss defense this week really showed up. But yeah, let's get on to the head coaching, debauchery or whatever we got going on in the country right now. I think, a lot of people are speculating it, trying to, get a little bit of, just a little bit of noise in Oxford right now. And I guess it's worked. We're talking about it, but, man, I just can't, I'm biased, I'll admit, but I just can't see I can't see a better place for Lane Kiffin. I can agree with all the notoriety of these, high prolific schools that have openings right now. But, I kind of find it, in a similar way that you have to have a good match, right?
Yeah.
And, Lane has preached before that it wasn't about the money. And, of course, I'm not here to speak on that. They could offer him twice as much as Ole Miss, and, who's to blame him if he took it. But I'm just to say I think the match for Lane Kiffin could not be better than where it is in Oxford. He has, changed the program. Everybody adores him in Oxford. And, that's what everyone said about how much, Lane is loved, and he knows he's loved, and he loves Oxford. But at the same time, man, I think it goes to show, like, sure, you could go to these prolific schools, but I think it means just a little more if you was to do something that hasn't been done,
Yeah.
and maybe I could be wrong, but I kind of see Lane Kiffin as somebody, who he definitely deserves the recognition that some of these other schools have to them. But at the same time, I mean, he's building a recognition that Ole Miss is coming to have, and so is he at the same time. It's like it's like a pair it's a yin and yang kind of relationship. And I think that's unique, and I don't believe you can just, duplicate that. Not saying that Lane couldn't leave and have success other places. I'm sure he would, but, to have that special season, man, you really do have to seem like it's going to be like a perfect tornado of events, and I think that environment or that atmosphere for what needs to happen for the end all of Lane's goals, I think that's in Oxford, man.
See, I agree with you. I think that Lane Kiffin isn't leaving, but if he were to leave, the only school that I would honestly be worried about is LSU. I cannot see Lane leaving to go to Florida. I definitely can't see him leaving to go to Arkansas. I really can't see Penn State. I feel like once you dip your toes in the SEC, you don't really go back from that. It's a whole different type of environment. LSU is the only one that would worry me, but I don't think he would leave for a big-name school because he, like you said, he's making Ole Miss a big-name school. Everybody knew what Ole Miss was before. We've had moments. Everyone knows what the school is, biggest party school in the nation, whatever you want to call it. People like Ole Miss, but he's making Ole Miss a football school, which it has not been. Even when Hugh Freeze was here and we beat Bama, we were not a football school. We were just good at football. But football and Ole Miss are becoming synonymous. I think it's interesting to watch how Lane has developed this program because, in reality, Lane brought us out of the dark days. And it's not crazy to say that we owe a lot of what we have right now to Lane Kiffin. I would honestly say that Lane Kiffin has so much of his life and his work involved with what Ole Miss is now. I think it would be a lot harder for him to leave, just up and leave for a bigger salary, for a better team. And besides the fact that all the teams that we just mentioned are not necessarily better than Ole Miss, I would say that really Ole Miss has a leg up on all of those programs, not in history, but definitely in current play. 100% better than Florida, better than LSU, evidently so, better than Arkansas for certain. LSU's close. I think it comes down to coaching. I think Lane would make any of those teams better almost immediately. But he has such a rapport built up with the University of Ole Miss. When you go to another school, I think maybe for a year you get a bit of a clout boost. You get a little bit more notoriety in the recruiting game. You might get some people more interested in coming to your school because it's something new. You just got to the program. You're going to be hands-on with Lane right when he gets there. But I think that's really just like a high school thing. Like, these younger kids are excited. Lane Kiffin's going to LSU. I want to go to LSU and play for Lane. I don't think that's going to extend to those 4th and 5th year seniors who are going to be like, I want to go to a good team and this is a rebuild. So I think it would take Lane 2 to 3 years to start really, really winning again, which is not something I could see him wanting to do. I know that Coach Odron has actually thrown his hat into the ring for assistant coaching jobs for Lane Kiffin for LSU. He said if Lane wanted to be at LSU, he would 100% work as an assistant coach. Honestly, don't think that raises the the want-to level for Lane to leave. But like Dalton said, I really think it's just a lot of noise. And at the end of the day, the way the team is playing right now, I think says more than any newscast. Honestly, anything Lane can say. Because head coaches lie. They lie all the time. They tell you you're doing this and they're not. I've had experience when working with coaches. Coaches, they go to a better school sometimes. That's how it works. It's as simple as that. It's not personal. It's all business. And if Lane were to leave, it would not be personal, but people would hate him for it. But yeah, I think the way that we played against OU especially, And South Carolina, yeah, it's a home game, it's a night game. The people are going to rally behind that. The troops, your soldiers, your athletes, they're going to play well because of the environment and that. But you go to Oklahoma, you play them in the rain, in the morning, and you play like that, you come out with a win against a ranked team. I don't think athletes who think their coach is going to leave play like that for them. Honestly, I think that just the way that the team rallied behind Kiffin right there, I think that shows that he's staying. Because personally, as an athlete, if I knew my coach was leaving, I'm going to play my best for me, but I'm not going to put the team on my back like that. It's hard to play, and that sounds selfish, but it's hard to play for someone who isn't playing for you. And I think that you can feel that Lane Kiffin is involved in this program. And I don't think he's going anywhere. And now we can fast forward off of that. How do we think this is going to go in the next couple games? Obviously, Lane's not leaving. We can settle that. I don't know why he would leave, except for more money. Better environment. I guess you got better bars, maybe. I can't really say many reasons that he would go to Florida or go to Baton Rouge. To each their own. Whether he leaves or not, I think he's not. Some people think he is. But coming into this next game, the Citadel game, I want to say easy win. The way we just played, I think if we actually game plan for Citadel, I think it's an easy win. I think the coaching staff learned their lesson with that. Wash State was a travesty. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I think we're going to give it a real week. Florida isn't as big of a game as Georgia. I really think that we're going to actually prepare for the Citadel game for at least 3 days, hopefully more, hopefully the full week, and then we're going to come out of that and we go straight to the Georgia game at home. I really don't see us having a problem with Florida right now, especially not at home at night. That just got put out. That's going to be a night game. Really excited for that. They got us pretty good in the last game, but I can foresee the Rebels both rallying behind the home atmosphere of a night game and also rallying around that feeling, the ones that were here since it's mostly transfer school, but rallying around that feeling of losing and getting bumped out of the playoffs last year by Florida. I think that was just a terrible time to be a Rebel, an athlete, or a fan. That was a sad game, and I don't think that happens again. The only game for the rest of the season that I could see us losing is the Egg Bowl. Something about Mississippi State at Duty Noble. I think that's their baseball stadium. I'm not sure what their field's called. I'm just going to call it the Stark Vegas. You go to Stark Vegas, something about the air there. They've had a lot of upsets, almost. If you were to cut these games off at halftime or into the third quarter, Mississippi State would be like 6-2. They'd be incredible. But they can't seem to finish out the game, which is, a big part. But statistically speaking, they're bound to at some point. I hope that's not against us. But if I had to say to watch out for one game, I would say to watch out for State. And also, it's all the time we have today. But please join us again next week. We will continue to talk about Ole Miss sports. I think we're going to be going over the Houston Nutt era of Ole Miss football. A little bit of a throwback. Another great set of teams. Stay tuned. Stay classy, Oxford.